Hey everybody, welcome to the morning market briefing. It's Friday, December 9th, 2022. Big day, Narwhal Christmas party this evening. You guys pretty jacked?
Very jacked.
Super jacked.
Getting hydrated, trying to stay hydrated.
Going to be some performances.
Yeah, are you playing the piano? Natalie asked me if I thought you would play the piano.
I have been drafted.
And I said, why don't you say it to his face?
The captain and Neil.
Man, we're going to have to get a video for Nina. Send it over.
Yeah.
Natalie, man, she's
got
ready.
some pipes.
She wants to carol. She wants a pianist to accompany her. And I don't know, it's going to be quite the show. She asked me if I thought it was cheesy or right up our alley, and I said both.
Yeah.
So should be a good time. Narwhal Christmas Party 2022, a night to remember. Let's jump in with PPI. Tom, I think you got all the data. 12-month change in PPI up 7.4%. Is that what you're seeing?
That is what I'm seeing. So the expectation was 7.2, and the expectation was to be down from 8% last month. So this is Producers Price Index. So this is more of the business side of inflation, but we came in a little hot, came in 2 basis points ahead on the headline number. And not only they actually revised last month up by 0.1% from 8 to 8.1. And then on the core, which is maybe the number that's the most disappointing, is that the expectation was for core to come down from 6.7 to 5.9. It actually only came down to 6.2. And on top of that, they also raised last month from 6.7 to 6.8. And then the month over month too, if you think of it on an annualized, you're supposed to come in at 0.2, we came in at 0.3. So all across the board, inflation is higher than expected this morning. The bond market was nice and green when we walked in here, and it has turned nice and red since the number came out. So, I mean, if you think of it, Mr. Brightside, we are continuing to see inflation come down from the highs, but unfortunately not as quickly as was anticipated. And actually, technically, it's accelerated on the month over month.
Well, that's the concerning thing for me, that you have the year over year declines, but increasing that looks like it's just a very difficult comp. So when you are comping over a period of heightened inflation, those year over year numbers are going to look lower. What I think we should increasingly focus on is the month to month. And that is where we don't really see good movement, because we just accelerated from 0.1% on the core to 0.4%. Again, that excludes food and energy. But again, if you put oil prices that could potentially go up from here on top of that, then you could see core inflation at 5%, which is what we've seen at 0.4% annualized. Throw energy prices going up on top of that. Again, we're not seeing that right now, but if we do, then you could have inflation on the producer side right back into that high single digit range, which is something we don't want to see.
Yeah. Not an ideal number this morning, definitely.
Yeah, I think that's the context that I feel like we kind of were almost begging the market to see, a month ago, when all of a sudden it was like we saw a little bit of positivity on the inflation train, and all of a sudden everybody's like, oh, we fixed it. I feel like Powell's been pretty consistent in his messaging that there's still work to be done. I don't feel like this really changes anything on the policy side. It just kind of reinforces those comments.
Yeah. I mean, we referenced the George W. Bush mission accomplished thing that day.
Yeah.
And here we are a month later, numbers coming out, and we're actually seeing reacceleration in inflation. So the battle was won, the war is not over.
The scary thing too is that this is the producer side. This is not the consumer who all of a sudden it's Christmas, getting excited. There's some discounts, going out, really buying things. Home prices, the mortgage rates have declined a little bit, buying houses. This is not that. This is producers. This is underlying inflation within the economy that should really be coming down, especially when you think about supply chain issues easing.
Let's talk a little bit about some earnings reports that we had come through. Ben, you want to open us up with Costco?
Yeah, so Costco reported last night. On the surface, things didn't look so great. But after I listened to the conference call and hearing management talk, I'm a little bit more positive on this. So I think the big takeaways is that margins are weak right now, but there's some accounting issues that go into that. The other piece is that they've been really holding the line on fresh foods, not raising prices on fresh foods, even though their costs have gone up a lot. And so that's really hurting the margin. but what they've seen is that inflation has declined a little bit in just the last few months. And so I think that will actually bode well for margins going forward. The other pieces, I think a membership fee is right around the corner. They did say that they could have raised membership fees yesterday. They could do it in a few months. But this is a question of when, not if. My base case, I would set the over under at January 31st. That's the end of their next quarter finishes in the middle of February, end of February. But I think we could see a membership fee increase in and around that period of time. They have paid a special dividend at times in the past, usually every 2 or 3 years. They raise membership fees every 5 to 6 years. They do a special dividend every 2 or 3 years. And I think that we're probably maybe 6 to 12 months away from doing a big special dividend. So it could happen this fiscal year. It might happen next fiscal year. That's one where they're probably going to watch and see how the macro landscape evolves before committing that amount of cash and taking down that cash balance on its balance sheet. But by and large, I actually think that Costco was a pretty good report. They're seeing a little bit of softness in big ticket discretionary items like jewelry, large appliances, and big TVs. But even on TVs, unit sales were actually up. People are just buying smaller form factor TVs than the 85 inches that they've done in the past.
We also heard from Restoration Hardware. I mean, this seems like a company that would be right in the cross section of companies I would not expect to perform terribly well in this environment. Kind of a high-end furniture market when there's concerns about the consumers as well as housing. Seems like a little bit of a recipe for disaster. Stock's down about 1.3%. It's had a pretty horrible year, down more than 50% year to date. Ben, what did you see from them?
The CEO he's the prophet of the apocalypse. At least he's been so far this year. I mean, the last 6 months he's been talking. He really rang the alarm bells in February or March. One of the first people to actually raise the alarm bells, which is something that we included on our first quarter macro, as someone who's kind of out there, not really seeing the data, but he's just ringing the alarm bells. They've been doing some layoffs. And yet they had incredible earnings. And he's like, we had really good numbers, but that's only because we had cheap inventory and we pre-sold some of the stuff that we could have done. Things are going to get really bad. And he says, quote, "We expect the next several quarters to pose a short-term challenge. My uncertainty regarding the short term has expanded due to a complete collapse of the luxury housing market." So don't tell Toll Brothers, which actually provided.
Yeah, we talked about them earlier this week.
Yeah. But Restoration Hardware basically saying that there is no soft landing in housing. He says that it is fallen from the 10th floor like a rock, is how he's basically described it.
Iraq is a country in the Middle East for you guys, if you're curious.
It's interesting to me, just the dynamics of this. I mean, when you think of what type of character you think would be the CEO of Restoration Hardware, I would picture the guy that used to be over Punch Bowl Social, like just everything's great. There's
Bob
nothing.
Thompson.
Yeah. His name was Bob Thompson, ironically, for no reason in particular.
Frequent listener to the podcast.
Yeah. But I always kind of picture like go. Things are great. People are always going to love luxury furniture. We're in the right spot. It's always going to be good. And then this guy's kind of like, man, it's going to be tough.
Yeah. But meanwhile, they're coming out with new Restoration Hardware Gulfstream jets that are available for charter beginning next year. They have a yacht available. They have a yacht available for charter, and they're building a hotel. So it's like they're doing all these things for the luxury market, but at the same time, he's saying that things are absolutely terrible.
I feel like when you say luxury air travel, I don't want the word restoration in it.
Smart.
You know.
Yeah, restored engines,
Refurbished.
Yeah. This was once a new plane. You should come get on it.
I mean, I think it kind of bodes in. We talked a little bit about this yesterday. There are rich people, and then there are rich people, right? There are people who there's a difference between the appearance of wealth, which I think is what you're seeing which is the people who made pretty good money and are now shopping at Walmart for food, and then there are people who buy Toll Brothers houses who have real money, who are not being hurt as much by this. And I think Restoration Hardware is kind of that spot, which is like if you're shopping at Restoration Hardware and you're spending $56,000 on a couch, you've got real money, and you're probably a little more insulated from this. But the people who run those companies are really rich too, and they can see the writing on the wall. You know what I mean? There's definitely layers to it, and you think that guy, he makes a lot of money. He's a surgeon or whatever. And then there are people who make real money and they shop for restoration hardware. I'm just saying,
and then there's the boys. We're not rich or rich.
Yeah.
We know someone who worked at Restoration Hardware.
Yeah.
And this person was saying that, she would get a budget from this family. They were kitting out their kids' rooms, $150,000 for budget for each bedroom.
That's unreal.
How about Don turning on his camera? What's up, Don?
Those kids better be working, man. I mean, I don't even think we have any new furniture in either of my children's bedrooms. It's truly restored furniture. And it's, very restoration themed. Also got earnings from Lululemon down about 7%. EPS number was, relatively fine, but some inventory concerns potentially.
Inventory was up 85%. I mean, it was unbelievable. Which I have to say, I mean, if you're in an inflationary period and you have a ton of confidence about your business, might as well buy your inventory now before the prices go up. I mean, there is a line of thinking that's called what you do in an inflationary environment. You don't want to run with little inventory. You might as well just front load all your inventory when stuff's cheap. If you think prices is going to go up, that's the bullish argument. The other bullish argument is that the company is continuing to sell very well, and they probably have relatively little inventory degradation over time because they're selling this workout gear that doesn't change fashion in 3 months like some other businesses do. So I would probably say that the 7 to 10% decline is a bit of an overreaction, but the stock's been up on stilts, and it's very difficult for me to rationalize buying a company at 30 times earnings into a recession like this. So I would stay away.
Update on the FTC suing Microsoft. They're blocking the deal. Microsoft says, let's go to court. I can tell Ben didn't write these pre-market notes, not just because I can tell who sent them, but also because the item point E on the pre-agenda note says Lena Khan ain't playing games no more. Ben ain't saying that.
I can't figure out all those double negatives. But no, it's true. I mean, I think that Lena Khan is definitely going after the whole thinking here was that Microsoft is looking to I think they were looking to put the FTC in a box, and the FTC is coming after Microsoft anyway. At the end of the day, FTC is intent on not getting this deal through. Microsoft says they're going to fight it. I think that's probably a foolish errand, and I think they should just buy back stock or buy Autodesk instead. But I'm biased.
Last thing, kind of staying in the tech sector, DocuSign. Surprisingly good results, I would argue. This was a big pandemic play back in the day. Stocks really languished, down about 70% this year, up 10% pre-market on their report. I didn't see that coming.
I was surprised by that. I think that here's the thing with DocuSign is that during the pandemic, their salespeople didn't have to do a thing. People were all inbound. They wanted to sign up. And now you have to actually start your sales and actually go out and sell. And for the longest time, they just weren't doing that. But I think that they've now put in place the incentive scheme to go ahead and do that, or a really disincentive scheme. If you're not selling, you get fired. And I think that is translating into results. So good for DocuSign. I would be hesitant to really see how that would transmit to other cloud companies, but clearly you can't paint the cloud with a broad brush right now. There are nuances to each company. ServiceNow has performed very well in go-to-market. Salesforce and DocuSign have not.
Next week, relatively busy week just on a programming side. We will have calls next week, all week. The following week is getting way out in the future, but we'll have calls up until the 23rd, and then we'll take a week off. The week between Christmas and New Year's will be off. But what are you guys looking ahead at?
It's got to be the Fed and CPI.
Yeah, CPI is going to be. PPI is just the appetizer. CPI is the meal. So hopefully we see some improvement there. If not, I think it's going to be the Santa Claus rally will probably come to an end just before Christmas.
Fitting. No more toys.
Sad.
Everybody's getting coal. Yeah.
I mean,
Beautiful, clean coal.
coal
Beautiful,
price-
clean coal.
Coal prices going up. Inflation.
Oh,
Not insulated from inflation, unfortunately.
it's been a good year for those on the naughty list last year.
Yeah, buy your
So,
coal now because prices are going up.
we'll wrap it up there before this goes down the tube any further, but we'll be back Monday morning at 8:30. Hope you guys have a great day.